speaking of these books, one of the books we got before our first kid arrived was Brain Rules for Babies. And thank God the first chapter you read is like, they tell you right in the first chapter. I want to say the number, it's either like 68 or 70. It says 70% of marriages get worse after kids. And we're like, okay.
Yeah.
That's a good heads up.
Yeah.
So I think going into it, knowing like,
that,
no, it's going to get fucking worse.
Yeah.
It's going to get harder. You're going to have less time for each other, less patience, less sleep. You're going to become kind of like co-managers of these fucking kids. And that's hard. And we've had hard stretches. I will say, though, they do get to an age, and I think a lot of people don't make it through that part, but life starts coming back in like, oh, we can go on a 3-day trip. Yeah. We can do this. And it starts seeping back in. But yeah, if I had charted how hard it got, it was certainly peaked. You know, when they're like 6 and 4 years old, forget it. You're like, cool, I live with this gal. I think these are our kids. We're doing this together. But I can't imagine she wants to see me.
It's reality distorting.
Yes.
Because when you're with the kid, it's euphoric. They laugh and they smile. And then you and your wife are the happiest you've ever been in your life. So you're like, yeah, we're happy. Everything's good. But then you guys aren't spending any time together, even though you're together.
Yeah.
So you feel like you're getting that same emotional diet satisfied.
Yeah.
But you're not at all. Like, we actually had to like sit down and reflect on it. We're like, what is different here? We're spending tons of time together. And then we're like, oh no, we don't talk the same way we do. Going out to dinner is much more difficult. We're exhausted.
Yeah.
And we had to make a conscious effort to like pour back in a little, even if it's 30 minutes.
Also, the amount of compromise, I guess it depends. I certainly know dads that are like, yeah, you decide everything, I'll pay for everything. Well, that's not the scenario in my life. My wife's a gangster and she's going to have a lot to say in whatever. Yeah. And I'm very opinionated. So I think even the kids and how we're going to raise them and making all these minute-to-minute decisions, that's just Chris and I's nature. Like, we come from different points of view. We generally have to compromise. So it's just like another thing to compromise about, but it's now something you care way more about than you did about what restaurant you're going to. Right. So you're like, no, this is vital to me. They have to be this way, or they have. So yeah, it's a recipe for just a lot of stress, and it gets rough.
Preparing for that is, I think, and like once you can view it through that lens, like doing anything exhausted is tough.
Yeah, right.
Like if somebody was like, hey, there's no kid, but you're going to be exhausted in your relationship for the next 8 months, you'd be like, okay, this is going to be a little harder.
Yes, exactly. Or the next few years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
you guys are going to be your worst self for the next 5 years. Good luck.
Just tell us that. Yes.
Yeah.
What happens is that you're smacked in the face with it a few months in. You're like, what the hell is going on?
Yes.
Being able to reflect, for us, that was very helpful.
Yeah.
Like huge. And at least you understand it. And then when you can kind of pour back in, even if it's like tiny little bits of time, there's this like reminder of just why we got to the point where we're like, hey, we really want to bring life into this world.
Yeah.
Like, this is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, I this is pathetic, but there were moments in that stretch where I would be at my sink brushing my teeth, and I would force myself to look over at her brushing her teeth, and I'd go, that's a real person right there. That's a human being who needs love and is afraid and needs compassion and comforting. Yeah. She's a real, but she's not a fucking robot mom.
Nope.
As much as we're both now robot parents, I'm like, but I had to I had to be thoughtful and go like, that's a little girl over there.
Yeah.
Who's in over her head, just like I'm a little boy who's in over my head. And okay, hi. This is hard, huh? Yeah. It's scary, right? Yeah. You're afraid you're doing a bad job. Yeah.
You've been with Kristen 17 years now?
Yeah.
What is the number one piece of advice you have to make it last?
Oh, man. We were lucky enough that we started therapy like 3 months into dating.
Yeah.
This is not going to work. We were explosive together at first.
Been there.
And I will say now, having done it that way, it was like my previous relationship, which was long as well, it was 9 years. We went to couples therapy at the end, and it's like taking your car to the shop, and it's like, the trans is blown, 2 cylinders are out. This is like, you should have fucking changed the oil, knucklehead, 8 years ago. And I will say, like, we went in, they were short, we didn't do a ton of them, but the dude was like, here's what's happening. You guys are stuck in this pattern. He says this, you always say this, that triggers this. Stop saying that and stop doing this. It was really pragmatic. It wasn't like, ethereal, we had to connect with our inner child. It was like, stop saying this. And when you say this. And so I think luckily we broke a few patterns that would have destroyed us really early on. That was helpful.